Well, next on the show on this International Women's Day, we are celebrating because every generation of women makes some progress for the next. And Dr. Jen Gunter is from the generation that refuses to be silenced about our periods. She has a new book out called Blood, The Science, Medicine, and Mythology of Menstruation. And she's in Winnipeg for the launch today at McNally Robinson and in studio now. Now, welcome home. I know you studied medicine here way back in the day, and good morning to you.
Thank you. Good morning. Yeah, I feel like I brought the snow with me.
You're already sold out tonight, so what a pleasure to have you here to talk about your new book. People are going to know your other bestsellers. I mean, The Vagina Bible, The Menopause Manifesto. What is the purpose of Blood, this book?
Well, the purpose is really to demystify the whole process. I think, half the population goes through a menstrual cycle for about half their lives, and it's shrouded in mystery, and it shouldn't be. You should understand how your body works. Also, if you want to advocate for healthcare, you need to know how your body works. If you want to avoid the snake oil online, you need to know the facts. And I wanted to get people to start talking about it. It's high time we got rid of all of the shame and taboo. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Now, why is it shrouded in mystery? There's this point in the book where you actually reference, I think it's your grandmother, you say it was never would have, talked about it. Where does that come from?
Well, I mean, the short answer is the patriarchy. Since the beginning of time, patriarchal societies have viewed menstruation as dirty and toxic and polluting and a sign of being inferior. And so if you want to get half the population to sort of be, treated as if they are less, it's easy to have a sort of a visible biological sign, right? So, if you feel shame about your body, if you're told it's dirty, a lot of it is also probably related to now being sort of pregnancy capable, if you will. And so, the idea that you have to save yourself for marriage to a man, these types of things are all complicated and wrapped up. And if nobody else is talking about menstruation, where do you go to find about it? You must think, well, it's shameful, so I shouldn't talk about it.
Which is so fascinating because, you think, as you said, it was labeled as dirty somehow. It's like, this is the ability to grow human beings. I mean, at its core, if you should choose so.
Yeah, I mean, but the patriarchy doesn't make sense, right? It's about power.
Myths in the book about women's health when it comes to dealing with our periods. What are some of the biggest ones that you hope to bust?
Well, the ones that people get all worked up about is the idea that if you put a bunch of women together in a room or workplace or a dorm, that they're going to start having their cycle in sync, and that's actually not true. Another myth that I hear a lot is the idea that you can balance hormones with food. That's not true. Humans are incredible omnivores, and whatever food you like is fine. And the idea that the color of your menstrual blood has any special meaning, it just means if it's darker, it just means it's oxidized.
Can you elaborate on the food thing? Because I think that's a really big myth that, especially in this day and age of social media, goes everywhere.
Yeah, well, there's all kinds of period coaches wanting to sell you all kinds of special diets. And, think about it. Humans have lived in such diverse situations. If you want to consider an ancestral diet in Manitoba versus an ancestral diet in Greece, they wouldn't have any similarities, right? But yet these people all were successful and reproduced and had healthy lives. And so, there isn't a single food that's going to balance hormones. You can't even balance hormones. It's really not even a thing. And so, the healthiest diet is really a healthiest diet, a high fiber, low in processed foods, making sure you get enough protein, nothing sexy,
You have a whole chapter on modern menstruation products. What shouldn't we be using anymore? Or maybe it's not that black and white.
But. Well, don't use things from Gyno Etsy. I think that's a good start. All of the products that you see over the counter in the drugstores are fine. Men's period underwear, they're fine. We don't recommend using any scented products. One, they can irritate, but two, they perpetuate the myth that periods are, smelly and gross. So the idea that, you would need a scented product is simply not true.
What's exciting about new products that are out there?
Well, I think it's really cool that we have a wide range of products. I mean, when I was menstruating, there were pads and tampons. That was it.
Yep.
And, then they developed wings. Whoa, fantastic. Absorbent technology improved dramatically. Excellent. So you're not sitting on a box of Kleenex anymore. And, now menstrual cups are popular, and menstrual discs are popular, and menstrual underwear. So there's really, a lot of choices for people. And I think that's fantastic.
You mentioned, it's interesting because you mentioned the period underwear, with the absorbing layer. How surprising is it to you, or maybe it's the wrong word, but what's your reaction to sort of what's old is new again, right? Like products like that also coming forward.
Yeah. So, I think the idea now that we have technology that can do so much more, right? Like absorbent technology, we have all these, sort of synthetic fabrics that have this absorbent capability that, if you think, 100 years ago, women were using, rags and bleeding onto their clothes. And now we have underwear that can contain it all. I mean, I think if you were to travel back a couple hundred years and show that to, to women, they'd be like, whoa.
Absolutely. There's some understanding of premenstrual syndrome, PMS, but a lot of people may not have an understanding of PMDD, and you do write about that in the book. So can we just share with the listeners this morning, what is PMDD?
Yeah, so PMDD is premenstrual dysphoric disorder, and you can think about it as a more severe form of PMS where there's much more depressive symptomatology and you're far more affected from your activities of daily living. And it is something that is very treatable with medication. There's a whole chapter on both PMS and PMDD, and I think people will be able to find a lot of resources, hopefully, to advocate for themselves.
You write in this book that you are concerned about misinformation around women's bodies and health, and obviously it's pervasive right now. What's your greatest concern about it?
Well, I think that the greatest concern is the lack of knowledge is being weaponized against women, and we're actually going backwards. We're not going forwards. If you look on social media, everything that's sold to you as wellness about your menstrual cycle is really the patriarchy wrapped up with a pink bow, right? There's this whole push away from using medical therapy to help your life. And if people had fantastic periods, none of these products would have been invented. The idea that you shouldn't take medication for pain if you have a period, that's painful, like ibuprofen, or have a surgical intervention if you have endometriosis. This idea that you should keep your cycle natural and unencumbered with modern medicine. Well, you know what? Some women want to have sex and not worry about getting pregnant if they partner with someone who can get them pregnant. And, it's if you look at the end game with all of these stories, they're a woman at home not leaving the house, right? So they're very, very regressive. So I would like people to really keep an open eye to all of this wellness that they see online, because there's often really a darker hidden message.
What is a misunderstood or a myth about contraception methods?
Oh gosh, there's so many. I think the biggest one right now is that if you are on the birth control pill, it's somehow going to damage you for getting pregnant later, which is not true. There's all kinds of naturopaths that promote this fake idea that there's a post-birth control pill syndrome. There's no such thing. They've never done any research to show that it exists. I could certainly just make something up, but they sell supplements to treat this non-existent syndrome. So I think that's a big one. Myths about the pill and the pill affecting nutrition are a big one right now.
Do you have to worry about how long you are on the pill?
Nope.
For any reason?
Not for any reason at all. I mean, as long as you're healthy to take the pill, so you don't have high blood pressure, you don't have migraines with aura, there's, no reason to stop the pill. You can take it until you're 55 if you don't have a cardiovascular risk. I mean, we have modern medicine for a reason. So if people don't want to have heavy periods, and certainly in the menopause transition, many people suffer from really irregular heavy periods, and they also might have hot flashes, and an estrogen-containing birth control pill can treat that. It's one of the best treatments for polycystic ovarian syndrome. It's one of the best treatments for PMS. So it has a variety of applications outside of pregnancy prevention as well.
What do you hope that women who missed this openness of discussion and education and didn't, have a lifetime of this, what do you hope they might take from this book?
Well, I hope they might understand their menstrual history and context. That's why that happened. People like to have the stories finished. They spend their lives like, well, gosh, I had these periods that were like this, but I don't ever have an explanation for it. And so I hope that pardon the pun, it puts a period on the sentence for some people.
I liked the pun. My last question is about, around the book is about, and for younger women who maybe don't have openness of discussion and stuff, which is there's one chapter you hope they read.
Oh gosh, there's one chapter I hope they read. I actually hope they read the chapter on sort of just normal menstruation, about the flow, because so many women, young women especially, have iron deficiency that goes untreated. Actually, 40% of women who are 22 years and younger have iron deficiency. So I'd like them to know what constitutes medically heavy bleeding.
Do you want to take a crack at our question we're asking listeners? Advice to your younger self, advice to your future self, Dr. Gunter?
Advice to my younger self. Everybody told you that you were too loud is incorrect.
Love that.
Yeah.
What about your future self?
Keep doing what you're doing. You're swinging your bat okay.
Happy International Women's Day. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.